Arsenal beat Southampton to maintain their brilliant start to the season and get another win on the board. Now, while everyone is talking about the performance of Bukayo Saka with 2 assists and a goal, Kai Havertz also had a typical brilliant game, continuing his electric form. In this video, we're going to go through exactly why Kai Havertz destroyed Southampton and is one of the best players at the club. So let's get into it. Now, originally, I wanted to talk about some players within this game that I probably haven't spoke about a lot this season. However, I didn't really think we were brilliant against Southampton for the whole game, and I actually think a lot of the players that came in, such as the Jesuses and the Sterlings, weren't actually good enough to talk about, and I didn't feel like they deserved that sort of praise. Now, the main clip that made me want to do this video is the Havertz clip later on in the game. Arsenal have just made it 3-1. The game is basically over, but in Kai Havertz's head, it is not over, and we can still score more goals. He is pushing the defenders, he is being physical with duels, and he is winning fouls and passing the ball off brilliantly. And when I saw that and his reaction to the goal that we conceded, I thought it was definitely time we speak about Havertz yet again, I know, but I do think he is becoming every single week even more interesting and becoming one of the key players for the team in and out of the squad. Now, the first thing to talk about with this game is that Arsenal did play kind of 2 players on the left side and 2 players on the right side in order to make attacks. We had Jesus and Sterling working on the left, and Havertz came over to the right a lot to help Saka, but obviously give Saka a little bit more space than some other players would. Obviously, the right side worked a lot better in the end, and I think Havertz and Saka were the 2 best players on the pitch for us. But the left side did work at occasional times because Calafiori and Rice from deep were very good in their pocketed areas, and obviously it got a lot better in the future when Marino and Martinelli came on later on in the game. And I kind of like this right-hand side movements that we have, especially against teams that are going to sit deeper, such as Southampton and Leicester, who we recently played, because I think Saka and Havertz have a really good connection with each other, but also Havertz does play a bit more of an attacking role than someone like Odegaard, so he isn't really going to sit just outside the box all the time. We saw this in some of the triangles that were created where Partey would come deeper and help, and this was very helpful. This allowed Arsenal to quickly shift the ball off to Jorginho, who acted as that central pivot in this game, and Havertz could always get in behind from that right half angle in a good areas, and there's a few times in the game he did this, and of course he didn't really get the end product there, but a lot of the time he's trying to look for the ball for the other players. And specifically in the first half, I feel like Havertz struggled to get on the ball. He is playing against a big defence. There was a lot of them as well, and he was the only one really there on the last defender a lot of the times. But I do think in some selected moments, he actually had some good interchange with Jesus. Now, usually all the good that happens within these moves is Havertz passing it to Jesus originally and making that sort of movement. And what he was doing was actually just bringing defenders away from the key men that had the ball, but more importantly, getting into space in different areas around the pitch. There was a few times Arsenal did break with down the left where Rice would maybe win the ball back, and Arsenal would have a good position where Jesus would get into the box, but we couldn't just quite get that goal in the first half. He also helped build up play from deep from down the right side when Saka would come deeper, when Southampton were trying to press us in one area. He's always going to come and help Saka on a bit of an overlap to be that ability to head the ball down and get us in that left side quickly. Now, we saw this against Tottenham where he would always break into that sort of half space and he'd see Raya pass it to him, but it's not even just a Raya goal kick. As soon as the defenders have it and they're under a bit of pressure, maybe in the corner, he's coming into them little half spaces and heading the ball down, bringing people towards him so Arsenal can get away. And in this game, he definitely operated more as a right striker, and Jesus operated as a left striker than necessarily him moving too much in midfield. Now, he did come into midfield a few times that we just mentioned, but most of his attacking movements and ball involvement was very much high up the pitch, but we should expect against a team that aren't going to have the ball that much. Now, I feel like this did limit Havertz in many ways. He didn't have someone that he could confidently run with and actually trust that was going to cover spaces he didn't go into, and Jesus mostly started in the attacking areas and didn't really do too much on the ball or get much involvement. This meant Havertz actually also struggled to get the ball because he didn't know when really to have it, and he could come deeper and pass it off, but it didn't really mean anything, and he needed to get it into good areas. And this did change when Trossard came on, because suddenly Arsenal did their 2 false 9 systems, which has been working really well recently, and he already had that connection with Trossard this season where they've been playing with each other consistently recently, where one of them would come deep and the other one would go across across the player. As soon as this happened, Arsenal got a lot better and Havertz got a lot more involvement on the game. He was coming deep into pockets, and even though Southampton were pressing him really tightly and really quickly, at this point Arsenal had already conceded and he was determined to make sure that we got a goal, and he was just carrying the ball from deep all the way up the pitch multiple times in a row. There's a few times as well where there's not even players around him and he just goes through the gaps and does not care, and I don't think Havertz has been someone that has done this a lot really over his Arsenal career, even recently when I'd say he's been amazing. But this is why that he has been thought to be in that midfield role before. He has got a great ability of bringing the ball up from deep, and unfortunately he hasn't got the best shot from distance, which I think lets him down a little bit, but when he can make good passes, it makes it very important going forward. Not only was he allowed to go deeper when this happened, it allowed Trossard to go deeper and Havertz to play on the last line, but into that right attacking space and overlap Saka, with allowing Saka to come inside. And this worked a lot because Saka got the ball a lot more in selected areas. They kept overlapping each other. Saka obviously was brilliant dribbler and created a lot, and instantly Saka and Havertz were able to do more passes with each other because Trossard was covering areas like deeper sometimes when we played it through the middle, or even Marino was on at this point, who was also doing these things alongside Rice in defensive midfield as a double pivot, moving into attacking left centre mid role. Now we can talk tactically about Havertz, and we have done in so many videos now, and we know how good he is off the ball, how good he is working with players like Saka and Trossard, so this is not really a surprise. But this game was one of them games where I think the mentality of Havertz really showed through, and we have seen glimpses of it before. Last year against Newcastle, you could argue he got a bit too aggressive in certain situations, but you could tell he really wanted to win for Arsenal. The interview he did at the end of the season when we had just beat Everton, he's almost crying because we didn't win the title, and he didn't even care about scoring the winner that day. I think it was evidently clear that this guy wants to win, and this game in particular is a brilliant example of this. The first example that we're going to have is the goal. Arsenal conceded a stupid goal because we were being complacent yet again, and it looked like it was going to be a disappointing result or a start to the game, at least in the 55th minute. Havertz and Saka specifically were not having this, and straight away you can see that Havertz wants to get the ball and wants to get into them attacking areas, and all game he kind of been operating in this right half space role, but this time he was not doing it. He was working down the middle and actually was in a more elevated position than Jesus, which he didn't do a lot in the game. Saka wins the ball back and passes into him, and Havertz does so well to turn his body and absolutely smash it in off the post. It's one of the best finishes he's done at this club, and it's a finish that just shows so much confidence, but also that ball striking ability we have not seen from him. That's something with Havertz. I think he isn't the best shooter in the world. Sometimes his shots aren't powerful enough or they aren't the right technique. This one was perfect, and it was a brilliant goal to get us back in the game, an absolute momentum builder as well. But like I mentioned earlier, I think the last 5 to 10 minutes of this game are a clear indication about what this guy is doing for the team and why he can never lead the starting 11 while he's fit. The first one is his determination to try and win a header to get Arsenal another goal in the 88th minute, and while he doesn't quite win the header, the ball drops down to him and he's very smart to put the ball through to Trossard, which we end up scoring from Saka from. His ingenuity made that, and you could tell it definitely meant something. And then straight away after that, 3-1, we've already mentioned it, but the game's already over and he's just doing brilliant defensive work, keeping the ball, getting fouled and not letting Southampton get anywhere near it, despite the game arguably being over. He does not care, he wants more. And yet again, in the 97th minute, he was picking the ball up and trying to put the ball forward with inside passes, as he was not satisfied with a 3-1 result and wanted even more. And I do think Havertz is becoming one of them players where he's really smart at being selfish but also being selfless. I think that is the art of football. I think sometimes you have to go on your own and that is the best decision, but sometimes you've also got to use your teammates and understand the passes are better, unlike some of the strikers that we have do. Havertz is becoming so aware at doing these things, and he's such a massive upgrade on Gabriel Jesus and Eddie Nketiah from last season that I can't imagine him anywhere not up front. When he plays in a false 9 role, he is in midfield anyway, and you get the best midfield actions off him, but his running off the ball is so good, he can get in them areas to score the goals as well. And I don't think Trossard should have been dropped for this game. I think Trossard's been brilliant recently as well, and I hope that them two continue to be our false 9s in the future, because I genuinely think it is working really well right now. Until Odegaard comes back, is probably the best solution. And I also think the stats from this game show how great Havertz is, but more importantly his attitude. He only had 2 shots in the game before Arsenal went 1-0 down, and after we went 1-0 down and Jesus came off, you could argue he had 5 shots in the game, totaling to 7 overall, which is a lot. And although his shot accuracy is still lacking and he's still missing big chances, the fact that he is creating chances as well, trying to do dribbles, trying to do crosses, trying to do long balls, we're making 3 passed into the final third as well as his brilliant duel work where he won more duels than he lost in this game, more in the air as well, and making a decent amount of defensive actions considering Southampton didn't really attack. I still think that's very impressive because it usually comes in the Southampton half. I think not only showed the improvement of Havertz over Jesus, but not only that, it's just the fact that Havertz has the mentality to be in our team right now. He has the performances to back it up, and he's one of the most consistent players we've had this season. I think in the attacking line, him and Saka have been incredible, and I think Trossard and Martinelli have been really, really good in the last 4 or 5 games, definitely getting to that sort of level. But these two set the standard, and they are the main men going forward right now. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.